Hi, everyone. It's me, Tim. Today, I want to talk about credits and how people get credited in games. And I'm going to do that by telling you a story because I'm frequently asked, hey, uh, who did the companions in Fallout? I love the companions. Let me tell a story. So, when we first started designing Fallout in 1994, there was a meeting where we were talking about how to do some fundamental design work. And it came up, are we going to be playing one character or are we going to have a party? Because a lot of RPGs back then, Ultima, Wizardry, those kind of games, you made multiple characters and you controlled a group. Because what would now be called a design pillar, one of our design pillars was we wanted the game to be reactive to the player, the kind of player you made and the kind of player you behaved as. We decided to go with a single character because that way it was your actions that determined how you were treated in the future. It was your skills that were checked. This just made sense with everything else we were designing for this game. I believe that original question about are we going to have a group or a single character was Scott Campbell's. I don't have my notes, but I'm pretty sure I remember literally talking to him about this in 1994. So move forward more than 2 years. So now we're talking very early 97. Most of the game is done. There's still more work to be done, but the basic mechanics of this game have been in for a long time. We're approaching what we thought was going to be bug fixing. We didn't know that there was missing content. Jason Anderson wanted to revisit the companion idea. There had been quests along the way. I think Tandy was one of them, where you had to go rescue Tandy. And the way it was working in the game, I'm pretty sure when you rescued her, she just said thanks and ran off. And then if you ever went back to Shady Sands, because she's on a different map when you rescued her, she'd be back in Shady Sands. I think that's how it worked. If it didn't, then she basically just was with you, but you couldn't do anything with her. You couldn't access her inventory. She didn't fight or whatever, because none of that support was in there because we had decided over 2 years ago not to do that. But Jason wanted to revive the idea, and he talked with Jess Hennig, scripter. Jess Hennig figured out how to do a big chunk of it with Jess scripts. Now, very wisely, he picked Dogmeat, who has no dialogue and no inventory. But he got Dogmeat to follow you around. He got Dogmeat to enter fights when you were attacked. And importantly, he got Dogmeat to go from one map to another. I'm not sure the way he did it was kosher, but he got it to work and he demonstrated it. More so, he submitted it and QA started playing it and they loved it. They loved it. They were like, we want more of this. Now, keep in mind, by this time, most of us were already working 6 or 7 days a week, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. We couldn't ship companions the way they were done in scripts. There was a lot of stuff that needed to be done, and there was stuff that was broken. What I remember specifically were the way they went from map to map needed some code support. It could break. It could cause bad save games. It also bloated the scripts that had to be put on every map, which meant if you missed a script, suddenly you'd go to a map and there would be no companion there. So Jesse Reynolds, a programmer, took over that. Once it was expanded past Dogmeat, it became people. We needed to let you talk to them. We needed to let you access their inventory so you could give them new equipment. I did that when I leveraged the, I think it was pickpocketing, that interface. So basically you were pickpocketing your companions, but they didn't care. They also needed a major revision to AI, which I had no time to do. None of us had any free time. This was suddenly a good idea came up, but it put stuff on people's already vastly overloaded plates. So I tried to leverage enemy AI for your companions, and it mostly worked. There were some bugs. In fact, there were a lot of bugs. So I'll just get this out of the way. QA reported a ton of bugs with the companions. I fixed as many of them as I could. Obviously, if you play the game, you know that there's additional ones, some of which are embarrassingly easy to fix. But there was just no time. I think in another video I talk about how I spent 2 weeks just trying to find that random crash bug. So the fact that a companion would occasionally shoot the player in the back, that just was not priority for me. It was just, I'd rather have that happen than the game randomly crash on you or corrupt your save game. So that's what we worked on. So after the game shipped, journalists asked me the very innocent question, hey, we love companions. Who did that? So how do I answer that? And just so you know, it's a trick question, and every answer is a trap. If I said, what was Scott Campbell's idea? I've had people come up to me, not Jason, going, no, it was Jason's. I can't believe you said that. If I said it was Jason's idea, well, no, Jason revived Scott's idea. Jess Hennig was the one who really got it working. Wait a minute. If I said Jason and Jess, not only is that dismissing Scott Campbell, who actually brought it up at the appropriate time, but Jesse and I were the ones who really got it in a shippable state. Not bug-free. I just said shippable. Wait. So how do you answer that question? Now, I know the clever people listening are going, oh, you should have said, well, Scott Campbell, Jason Anderson, Jess Hennig, Jesse Reynolds, and me. I've tried answering it that way. And then the narrative people who wrote the dialogues for the companions were like, you left me out. I can't believe you. QA people were like, hey, I reported that wouldn't have even worked if I hadn't told you these things that were wrong. So I tried saying it was a team thing. First of all, a lot of those people I just named were very unhappy about that. I can't believe you just said it was a team. I had so much work on that. But every journalist is like, here we get that answer again. I literally had one journalist say, I can't tell if you're answering because the group did it or you're talking using the royal we. But every time I ask you a question, you respond we. And I had a PR manager tell me to stop doing that. She said, it's coming across wrong. Stop saying we did this, we did that, we had this idea. Just stop doing that. Just so you know, on Arcanum, we thought we were clever. And if you look at Arcanum credits, it just said Arcanum was made by, and it lists the 14 names of everyone who worked at Troika at that time. Then it went into Sierra credits and they broke them down by group. That clever idea backfired when sites like Moby Games had no way of putting in credits without a title. So for a while on Moby Games, I was the lead animator of Arcanum. Since then, they fixed it, although there's a lot of names in there I didn't recognize. And since they're in the main section, you'd think they were at Troika. I can guarantee you there are some names in there of people who did not work at Troika. I don't even know who they are. So it's really hard to resolve these questions of who gets credit. It's a minefield. No matter how you answer it, someone will get angry at you. I've had someone who knew that this was difficult for me because he came up to me one day and said, I can't believe you didn't give me credit for this thing in that interview. And I went, wait a minute. You were asked to be in that interview as well, and you turned it down. And he said, yeah, I don't do interviews. And I said, you've never given me credit for anything. And he literally said, yeah, but I don't do interviews. And I was like, wait, you're mad that I didn't give you credit for something that has a chain of credits of people involved in it, but you've never credited me for anything, but you think that's okay because you don't credit anybody for anything. Yes, was the answer. If you think all this is behind me, in one of the videos I did previous, I'm keeping this generic so you can't figure it out. I credited something to someone who did it by himself, and I credited him by title. I later heard, he claimed he wasn't mad, but he wanted to bring it up, that I should have credited him by name. That it was uncool that I just credited him by title, even though you could go look it up. It's bad enough that there are companies out there that drop people's names from the credits if they leave before the end, even if they did major work that shipped in the game. And every company spins this a different way. Even at Obsidian, like, I don't have any credits in Deadfire, even though my code's in there. And that's true for a lot of people. Their art's in there or whatever, because they weren't actually assigned to the game. Although I was, and then I got reassigned to Outer Worlds after a few months. I get it. Everybody has a rule. Every company has a rule they follow. And some of them say, if you weren't there at the end, you get no credit. Personally, I think it should always go in as additional programming by, or additional art by, or additional design by if you don't get there. I have classes that I designed that are in WildStar, but I don't appear in system design. Everybody does this. Everybody has their own way of doing it. My point is, giving credits is an absolute minefield. And no matter how you answer it, there will be people who are angry at how you answered it. So I don't have a solution to this. I'm just warning you now. If you get into the game industry, the credits issue is going to come up. And no matter how they answer it, how they resolve this, the company, there's going to be someone who thinks it's being resolved badly. And even if somehow they get it right on the credits page in the game, I guarantee you there will be at least one person who's angry with how questions about the game get handled by whoever's being interviewed. Not to discourage anybody from getting in the industry. I'm sure it's like this in movies and other credited entertainment industries as well. Just kind of a heads up and a warning. And it's why sometimes when I get that seemingly innocent question of, oh, who did this? There's always a pause and this kind of look of fear in my eyes, because I know that no matter how I answer that question, someone out there that I worked with is getting angry. So I hope you understand why there's always a pause before I answer these, and why I try to spread the question out like, oh, well, the idea came from this, but the implementation was this, and then this person did the other things. It's just the nature of the business. So I hope that gave you some insight into not just credits, but where companions came from in Fallout.